Maybe you've already done that. There we go. So the context for today is twice recently, once in the Monkeypod private community and once in the open user group or maybe the official user group on Facebook, I have seen versions of this question. It is like, how do I create a claim the lead process? And the first, one of the versions was like for my sales reps. And then the other question was for my real estate agents. They have a team of agents and they wanted them to be able to like pounce on leads as they come in. And I didn't have a good solution for that. So when I saw that question, I was like, like I've seen it twice now in a relatively short period of time. So let me think about it and see what I can come up with. And, I'll be totally transparent. Like I don't have this need in my own business. So I've got what I think is like the bones of a good solution. But like, depending on, your personal use cases, this, it may just be a jumping off point. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to. I was talking to Moisha the other day, and one of the reasons I wanted to have, a bunch of eyeballs on this and to do it live is because I have no doubt that collectively we can make this better. So I've got a solution that I'm going to share, and maybe it'll help you guys in its current form. And if it does, that's great. But I really fully expect like what I build to just be like the first part of this conversation, and hopefully that we can like, shape it together from there. So hopefully we're all on the same page. This is going to be pretty casual. So feel free to, ask questions, feel free to poke and prod. Jade, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple random announcements. So I saw that, there's both a chat and a Q&A feature. Use the chat for like public chatter if you want to make sure, and also make sure it's set to like panelists and attendees so we can all hang out together. That's awesome. And then if you have like a specific, like a meaty type of content related question, that's better for Q&A so we can make sure like it's visible. And if we need to table it and address it later, it doesn't get like pushed up from the chat thread. So for those of you who don't do that a lot, yeah. Yep, Jason. So this is webinar format. So only these people are seen and heard, unfortunately. So, yep. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. And I don't know if we are recording, but we're not live streaming this anywhere, right?
No. Would you like me to?
No, that's okay. I mean, you can, but that wasn't, I was like, oh, we should announce that. But this webinar is open to everyone. Just as context, we often do webinars that are private to the OG community, and we do stream them into that group. Love the OGs, of course, but this is not that. All right, so let's get into it. I also should point out that I moved recently, for those of you who haven't like noticed that this is not my normal backyard landscape. And I don't have like a great setup here. We're sort of in a temporary place before our next move. And so I'm going to share my screen and like try to build this, but I may be less engaged in the chat and the Q&A because I'm going to be condensing things down. Yeah. So Jade, I'll trust you to moderate that and let me know if anyone's talking shit about me.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if they have valuable questions that need to be addressed. Yep. All right. So let's do this. I'm also going to build, I should call out that I'm going to use Zapier in this. But I think that I'm sure there are other ways to accomplish the same thing. And I also believe that you might be able to get by with Zapier's free version. I'm going to try to build it in a way that doesn't depend on the Infusionsoft integration in Zapier, but we'll see how it all goes. Okay, share screen. I want to share this one. Click share. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the Infusionsoft dashboard. Cool. Okay, so claim the lead process, right? And in the chat, if you guys could let us know, like number one, if you have this need immediately, just type the number one. Number two, if you're just like generally curious and you want to see where this goes, type number two. Number three, if you think your clients might need this, if you're like, hey, I definitely want this tool because I know I'm going to build it for someone else. Or number four, if you're just here hoping Jade breaks out the ukulele. Okay. So let's start by jumping into the campaign builder. And I will just build a campaign from scratch. You are definitely welcome to follow along if you want to build at the same time. I'm gonna also, we're going to plan to distribute the recording after the fact. So if you would rather just like sit on your hands and watch or like take notes or whatever, that's totally fine as well. We will get you the recording and you can, go through it at your own pace. Claim the lead process. Here we go. Save. So it's going to start when a new lead signs up. I'll use a web form for that. But this could easily be a landing page. It also could be like a third-party form that's dropping people into Infusionsoft. So the trigger here that kind of sets this all in motion can change. We'll just leave it as, first name and email for now, just for the sake of building things quickly. But this would be like people generally requesting a callback or requesting a quote or requesting a viewing of a property or whatever, right? So think about like your use case. This is the point of interest where they're saying, yeah, like I am a lead and I want to be communicated with. I'm going to copy the hosted version of this just to make it easier for us to test this in a moment while I'm here. And then after they request a callback, we're going to add them to a sequence here. I'll just make that a little bit bigger. And this is where we will, Jade, you said you're excited for me not to write deliver the thing. This will be where we say add them to lead queue. One of my favorite, I recently updated my Mac and I was worried about that. I don't know how to disable calendar notifications. Surely that's a thing. Quit. How about just quit? We'll try that. Okay, so add them to lead queue. There's a joke somewhere about like the word queue, like, how 80% of the letters in that word are not necessary. Like you could just have the letter and it's pronounced exactly the same. So, okay, we won't go. This is one of those jokes where you just have to assume everyone's laughing along at home. All right, so in this sequence, right, so the actions after that web form, first thing we're going to do is add a tag. And this tag is going to be to denote these leads. So lead queue. And we'll put it into our prospect tags category. Okay, apply category, lead queue. And this is the reason this tag is important is because in a moment here, I'm gonna create a saved search for the people who have this tag, which are effectively unclaimed leads. Now, the next step in this process will be to send an HTTP post that adds leads to hot list, okay? And this is where we are going to integrate with Zapier. So this post is going to be communicating with Zapier, which will be adding leads to a spreadsheet. Okay. So here's another trick that I like. If you guys use Google Drive or Google Suite, you should know that you can type sheet.new and it opens up a brand new Google spreadsheet. So if you type that in,
I learned that from you on one of your like lead magnets or ads or something, and I use that almost daily.
I will shamelessly go back to that trick over and over because I can't tell you how many smart people haven't stumbled onto that trick. Like loving it right now. And it works for doc.new and slide.new. Normally at this point, whenever I say that, there's somebody listening who's like, well, that's it. If I get nothing else from this call, like that one trick was it for me. Yeah. So we'll call this hot lead queue. And this is where we're going to put their information. So name, email. This is like, think of this as a internal document that your reps will view and leads will be added to or removed from. So it's like a running list of like the unclaimed leads at that moment. So you don't, I'm going to put name and email here. You could put whatever information here you want. That's my point, is it doesn't need to just be name and email. You could put I'm going to put status as well for whether or not they are claimed yet. So we'll make this bold. And I will freeze that first row and maybe add a bottom border to it. And let's, fill in light gray. Okay. So now we've got our lead queue sheet ready to receive leads. So once you get that sheet set up, you'll jump into Zapier to set up the Zap. And I'll just click make a new Zapier. My preference, Zapier's interface has updated. My preference is to use a webhook to start my zaps because it is immediate. If you are an Infusionsoft user who also uses Zapier, you may have encountered in the past, like there are different triggers for Infusionsoft when an order is created, when a tag is applied, but sometimes those have a delay. Sometimes those have a 5-minute delay. And so using the webhook means that it will be immediate, okay? And that
YouTube video into the chat.
Perfect. Yeah, I do have a YouTube video that talks about converting your zaps to using webhooks for just that reason. Okay, so it's going to be a catch hook is the type. And this, guys, like this can feel technical because we're using terms like webhook and HTTP post and catch or get or whatever the different like technical terms are. But what first of all, you just have to follow these steps. You don't have to know how all of it works or why all of it works that way or the technical back end. The reason we're doing it with Zapier is to avoid building it from scratch. So this is like the shortcutted version. You just have to say, cool, webhooks by Zapier, catch hook, and then continue. And then what it does is it gives us this URL to use in our HTTP post. I actually just ignore these other steps here. If you are like a developer or a programmer, you might get some value out of those other options there. I totally ignore them. Let's go to continue. And then I'm going to send a sample post to that URL. So it gives you that URL again to test the trigger. So now I go back to Infusionsoft and I pop in here to the add leads to hot list HTTP post. And this is where that URL goes. Now, these are the value pairs for what we are sending. So I don't need to send the contact ID. You can see over here, I should be sending name, email, and status. Those are the things I plan to fill through. So we'll do name and then email and status. And status is going to be unclaimed. That's going to be like hard coded because with anytime this post runs, the status that we know that the lead is brand new, so they have not yet been claimed. So I'm going to leave this as unclaimed, but the other two need to be merge fields because I want those to be filled in uniquely based on the contact. So we'll open up our merge window here and we'll add first name. And if you were doing first name and last name, you could put them both in here, but my web form is only collecting first name. So that's all I've got here. And then we'll also put email in. Now here is a pro tip for me. When you are testing an HTTP post, like if I do test here, it's going to use Greg Jenkins information, but it's using Greg Jenkins, the user's information. So that's fine for first name and email. But if you had like custom fields you were sending as well, those will come through as blank values when you use a test because it's drawing from the user record rather than the contact record. So my like pro move is to duplicate the HTTP post like that. And then I just type it, I use static values for all of them. So Greg at jenkins.com. That's not a real email address, so don't email me there. And then now when I use test, it's going to use only those values. I didn't see if it gave me the success symbol.
Can I offer another pro tip here?
Please.
Since I'm personally too lazy to duplicate and then make a fake one, I actually use this same HTTP post widget and I use both the merge field and I add a hard-coded one. And then when I'm done testing, I delete the hard code. So that
would work just as well. Yeah, that would work just as well. I'm not sure why this isn't showing. Normally it shows a little green indicator saying your test was sent successfully. I'm not seeing that. So let's refresh over here and see if it came through. Okay, it did. So it must have just been the notification not showing up, or maybe I just missed it. But that gave me a small palpitation. I'm sure for those of you who have done like live demos, that would have thrown a hitch in the rest of this process. Okay, so that information you can see came through, unclaimed, and then the email, and then the name. And we just click continue now to build our second step. So Google Sheets is one of the ones I use most often. So we're going to add a row to this Google Sheet with that contacts information. So choose an event, create spreadsheet row, and I'll pause here to show you the other options here. You can update a spreadsheet row. You can copy a worksheet. You can delete a spreadsheet row, et cetera, et cetera. So a couple of different options for working within Google Sheets here that you can trigger off at different points throughout your campaigns. I guess I like to highlight that because sometimes just, mentioning what's possible will spark like a thread that I may not have thought of, but might solve a problem somewhere in your business. So like, even if this particular scenario, doesn't, fit with your business model, there may be like a parallel version of it or like an offshoot that you can run with here that gets us closer. Okay, so create spreadsheet row, choose my account. I've already authenticated my accounts. Looks like I've got two here, Monkeypod Google Sheets account. Don't know the difference between them. If you are doing this for the first time, you would want to, type in your Google Drive account info to make sure that it pulls up the right account. Monkeypod Google Drive, there we go. And hot lead queue shows up at the top because it is the spreadsheet that I just created. And then there's only one sheet in there, so it'll only show sheet one. But if you had like multiple different reps and you wanted them each to have like their own like lead queue, you could clone this and you could, use a round robin to post to the different sheets, right? There's a lot of options for how you could be making this more flexible. I'm going to build sort of the most straightforward version, and then we'll take questions, and then I've got some bells and whistles that maybe we can layer into it. But now we just do value pairing. So the name is this column, and then email and status, those show up as different fields, and then I get to merge in the data that was provided from that catch, that initial HTTP post, to populate the spreadsheet here. So name, Greg, email, and then status should be unclaimed there. Continue, and it'll let us test and review. There we go. And then over here, we should see that lead has now been added. I got my formatting mixed up here. So let's go back to that. And we don't need that bold either, but that looks pretty good, right? You can see the name came through, the email came through, and the status is currently listed as unclaimed. So let's see, test HTTP post, status search. Okay, yeah, so.
Have you ever seen Brian Keap either like run a Google Sheets exporter tool or test the catch hook, and then while he's waiting for it to appear, he goes, ba-ba-da-ba-dum. Yes,
yeah. I think you wrote that, you included that in one of your songs, I believe. Yeah. So this, what this does, guys, let me just pause there, is when leads come into Infusionsoft, right? As people are opting in, what this is doing is it's automatically creating a spreadsheet that you can share with your team of those unclaimed leads. So if they keep this, as a favorite, right, on their browser, that spreadsheet you can share with the right team members. They can, it refreshes in real time. And as leads are added to this, they can immediately see it and then take action on it. So the next move for us would be to create the saved search in Infusionsoft. So I'm going to open a new tab here and go to my contacts section and just create that saved search for the hot lead queue. Lead queue, there we go. We should have one. Nope, we don't have a contact because that was a test that we pushed through. It doesn't actually correspond with a contact yet, but that's okay. I can save this with 0. Remember, when you are saving searches, you are actually saving the criteria. So as somebody new meets that criteria, they would then be added to this. So let's call this hot lead queue. Just add a couple E's at the end.
And somewhere we can't see that.
Yeah, so it's in a pop-up window, which didn't share because it's separate from the browser. But I think I think that shows you guys that it's now a saved search, and it should be here on the hot lead queue as well. So the reason I point this out is because let's do a test now. And this is the original web form that we had used to trigger off this process. So we'll call this Jade, and jade@olivia.com, submit. Also not her real email address, so don't email her there. So that's the thank you page that I didn't build in our campaign. We should see one for both of these. Got myself logged out there, got a little carried away. It happens. Current, there we go. Last 24, there we go. So this process, these items in here should be running. Sometimes it takes just a minute to refresh, but Jade should be getting that tag, and then that HTTP post should be running, which won't do anything because the Zap was not turned on.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Yeah. This is like, that's like, I'm not proud that happened, but like that, this is how it works, right? And if we're building things on the fly, like we're going to trip over stuff together. So close that. Zap is now on. Let's go to Jade's contact record, and we'll reprocess that campaign item, and which should let her come through here. So Jade will go to her campaign history. So you can see that this all did happen. Jade got this tag right there, and that post did run, but because the Zap wasn't on, she wasn't added to this spreadsheet. So if I repost this, here we go, rerun, it should be immediate, but this Zap should be running. And then in a moment here, we see Jade, bingo, bango, added to this list. So the way that you would turn this into a tool for your team is by sharing this doc with them, right? And then training them, like when leads show up on here, all they need to do is log into Infusionsoft. And you could, even encourage them to bookmark this save search, right? And then they just need to claim that lead. So how they claim that lead is a variable, like there's a couple options there. So I'm going to build what I think is my recommended approach for letting your team members claim this lead, which would be using an internal form. But you could, I'm open to suggestions here. You could just let them tag the lead. You could let them apply a note to the lead, right? There's any number of ways, but we'll call this claim the lead. And what I like about, I love internal forms for a number of reasons, but one is that they have a field that allows you to select the owner right from here. So, this would be like them choosing themselves. Choose yourself as the owner. And then I'm going to get rid of first name and email. We don't need any other fields on here because at this point, we've already collected the contact's first name. We've already collected the contact's email. So the only function of this internal form is to allow the user to select themselves as a lead. And then we would move them out of this process and into this process. So if you've built campaigns, you probably know that goals function as triggers. They stop the things before them and they start the things after them. So this would be remove from lead queue. And we would basically do the inverse of the actions that we had in here. So we would immediately remove them from that lead queue tag. So queue, there we go. And then we would also, there's a couple different ways you can handle this, but I'm going to send an HTTP post to update status on this spreadsheet, right? So effectively we would build another Zap. And this time we're starting it with an HTTP post again using catch hook. There you go. Copy. And I'm thinking on the fly here, guys, we can use the email address to find the right row in the sheet that we want to update. This is where this one will be a little bit more complicated. But what we're doing is adding.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Say that again.
It's getting spicy here. I'm excited.
Okay, how's the chat? How are people following along? Are there questions coming in?
No.
People
everyone's.
Are they bored? Did they go home?
Also here. Right.
Okay.
Moshe said that he would help us if Zapier freaked out and that he went home.
Okay, so I'll do a test here.
Question: what is the reason of adding to the Google Sheet rather than just using the Save Search?
Yeah, so the reason I like the Google Sheet is twofold. Number one, I think it's easy for people to like personalize. So you could push information to it from different channels. They can, add other sheets that like graph the data. Like it just opens up a lot of flexibility in terms of like what you do with this information. The second reason is a more advanced use case, but it would allow you to share leads with people who might not be users on your Infusionsoft account. The process I'm building right now assumes that they are users on your account, that they can come in and fill out this internal form. But you could let them claim the lead right from here just by changing the status, and then you could build a Zap that goes the opposite direction. So in theory, you could build a lead management dashboard using Google Sheets, and those people would never need to log into Infusionsoft. So that's kind of the reason.
Right. And a couple like just random ideas that are popping into my head that would just like fluff this up a bit if you're looking. I mean, obviously the possibilities are endless, but look at that.
Yeah, it worked this time. Go figure.
One thing, but personally, if I was using it exactly in this format, I would include an edit page link in the Zap. So that way, if someone sees a lead and they're like, oh, I want it, they can just click on it and go right to.
It's on my bells and whistles list, Jade. No, she's 100% right.
The other one till later then. How's that?
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, that's it, right? It's like we're on the same page, and you can totally do that. What Jade is talking about is adding a link column that takes them directly to that contact record, right? And you can actually automate that. There is a merge field for the link to the contact record that you would include in that first HTTP post. And as it comes through, it would show up on the sheet here. So I love it. That was going to be an additional layer that you can add.
Save my goodies till later.
That's all right. No, I appreciate it. Okay, so this one is updating their status, right? So I just tested that HTTP post. You can see it came through here. This is Zap number 2. So mark lead as claimed. I should have named that first Zap, but and then this one, instead of just creating a row on the spreadsheet, this time you need to have a step that looks up a row. So look up spreadsheet row so that it knows which row it needs to update. So here we go. We're going to choose the same Monkeypod Google account, and then you get to define which spreadsheet. So my Google Drive, hot lead queue, and within that worksheet, within that spreadsheet, which worksheet, sheet 1, and then the lookup column, it uses those names you have at the top, is email, and the lookup value it's using is the email address that was provided in the HTTP post. You could do a supporting lookup column. I don't need that in this case. And should this step be considered a success if nothing is found? No, I don't want it to proceed if there's no row found. Do you want it to create a spreadsheet row if one doesn't exist yet? I don't actually need that because this should never run if that person isn't already in the spreadsheet. So test action here, all this step is doing is looking up the row. So it should return the row that Jade's information is in, which is row 3. And that is correct. So it found the right row. So now we add another step here, which is to then update that row. So update spreadsheet row using the information we found here. So this is a little bit more complex because Jade was already in that spreadsheet. action event, update spreadsheet row, Monkeypod Google Sheets account, Monkeypod Google Drive, hot lead queue, sheet 1, row, and this is dynamic, but I'm going to use, there should be, I thought I could merge in the value here. There we go. So under custom there, ID 3. So that's the value it looked up in the previous step. What that does for us is it assures that it will find the right contact and then update the right field. I don't need to change Jade's name or Jade's email. All I'm doing is changing her status here to claimed. There we go. Continue. Test and review. Over here should be swapped to claimed, and it was. Turn on Zap. Turn on Zap. Okay, so that should be running now. Let's rename. I think this is the one I just created, but I want to rename it. Hot lead queue it is. Okay, so this was the first Zap to add to queue. And then we've got mark as claimed. So we just created 2 different Zaps, add to queue and mark lead as claimed. Those 2 Zaps are triggered first when the lead is added to Infusionsoft, and then subsequently adds them to the spreadsheet. And then when they come into Infusionsoft and mark that lead as claimed, it also removes them from that save search and marks them claimed on the spreadsheet. The other way you could do this, rather than updating their status, if you wanted to keep this spreadsheet like light and lean, would be to use the delete spreadsheet row action. So there's rather than updating them, this one, there was an option here for delete spreadsheet row, which would kind of remove them entirely from this list. So that way, the only people that would be on this list are people who have not yet been claimed. Okay, so let's do a quick republish and a quick test here, and then we'll pause, take some questions, and then we can layer in some of those bells and or whistles. Okay, web form. So this will be Severus S. Snape at Hogwarts.edu. So new lead requests a consultation. They fill out the form on your website. That form just got submitted here. I don't know why that boots me every time. I'm not used to seeing that. Although I suppose stranger things have happened. So current, we should see a second contact in here, and then Jade is now down here. So that should give us 2 people added to that saved search. When that HTTP post processes, we should see Severus pop up over here. And then in your team's aspect, they would come to this spreadsheet. Yep, Severus is there now. And then you could, I think it's a good idea to add that link there. But one thing you could do is just encourage them to add the hot lead queue saved search to their browser, add it as a favorites link, or add it here, right, to their internal favorites inside Infusionsoft. Or you could, in this spreadsheet, add a second tab that's just here's the list in Infusionsoft, and that would link them directly to that save search, provided that they were logged in. Once they arrive on this page, the process for claiming the lead is to just click on the forms, claim the lead, fill it out, choose yourself as the owner. My name is Greg, save. And then what that would do in the campaign is move them from that first process into the second section. And you can see it did do that. That's going to remove their tag, and it should also update their status over here. Now, Jade's status was already updated, so that post, when it runs, is not going to change anything because it already said claimed from our test. But it should remove her tag, which would remove her from the contacts hot lead queue so that Severus is the only lead there. So each time a lead is claimed, their status would be updated here on the spreadsheet, and this list would be dynamic to reflect that.
And Marsha made a really good point. He said if you're going to use the delete row part in the Zap instead of update, he said it's going to mess with triggering the Zap by updating the spreadsheet. It will work. He said it will work well. That's a lot of W's. It will work well with the web form option. Whew, it's a tongue twister.
Okay, so I haven't used the delete row. Here's what I know to be true. If you have a gap in your rows, I know Zapier struggles to add new rows because it's like, well, I don't know what to do. There's a gap. But my impression, my hope was that if you use the delete row function, that it would delete that row entirely and not leave a gap. So, Moisha actually was stoked to have him on here because he's worked pretty extensively with Zapier. So he may know differently, but my hope was that the delete row function would allow this to work without compromising it. But maybe I'm misunderstanding how that works. Maybe it just blanks it out, or maybe that throws a wrench in the works anyway. Okay, so what's that?
Looks like he's clarifying. He said the issue is with the update row. ... Type faster, dude.
Yeah.
Watching.
Okay, so we'll let him clarify, and we can expand on it as that comes in. I'm going to add two elements here. So number one is like, this information is good, right? But sometimes your reps, and again, guys, this is where I need your help shaping this, but I am hypothesizing that some leads, may be a better fit for different reps based on information about them, like, where they are. So you might want to add like their state or their country or their zip code, right? Or some other piece of information. So the way that you would include that is in your campaign, you would just make sure you're capturing that information on the initial intake form. And this could be like their budget, right? Or the number of people on their team, or their website if the rep needs to like do a little bit of homework before they reach out to them. So like think through the information that you use when determining who's going to interact in a lead, or what your reps are going to need in order to make the most like effective outreach, and then modify your web form so that it includes that. So let's add, for example,
would be like if a lead was filling out a form, they could say, I'm interested in X service consultation, and then maybe not all the reps love that.
Yeah, exactly. Right. If you have team members who have different strengths, right? Like not only can you help the right leads get to the right people, but this is also about creating like a more seamless experience for those prospects, right? Rather than waiting for somebody to notice that there's a new lead on this like random save search, you're creating a dashboard that you could project. Like a spreadsheet like this could be broadcast onto a monitor in your office, right? Like your team could witness in real time as leads are added or removed from it, and add like a level of gamification to that whole process. So if you're adding something like state, then you would just need to add that here. And I'm using state as a simple example, but you could, add anything, add any piece of data that is important to your province. Oh, I must have messed with the label. I'm in my demo account, so I often like change and move things on myself and leave no breadcrumbs behind. But yeah, province I renamed from state, just to give a shout out to all of my homies up north of the wall in Canada. Mm-hmm. Okay, so contact state. And again, if you need to test things, I recommend using static values rather than these merge fields, because my contact or user record might not have that there. But let's add the link, right? So let's add the actual contact link. This is what Jade was recommending. And I think it's under additional. Yep, it's contact edit page. A lot of people don't know that this one exists, but it actually just creates a direct merged, like clickable link that goes to that individual contact record. So
Jamie made a great case. He said you could use this for claiming support tickets.
Bingo. Yeah, and who said that? Jamie?
Jamie Clark, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This is the idea. The wheels are still turning for me on this, right? The more time I spend with this, I'm like, oh yeah, it could totally be used for that, or totally be used for that. And that's part of what makes this so exciting for me is it's not like cut and dry for a singular use case. It really is a pretty flexible process. Sean made a comment the other day that was like, you got to be careful because this will start like a bloodbath between your reps as they're trying to hash out who gets what. And I thought like, he's not wrong, but also the sales rep competing is only like one scenario where I think this could be valuable. So I still wanted to pursue this because I think it really just opens up a lot of options. Support ticketing is a great one. I've updated this HTTP post. So I'm going to retest so that we can update the Zap to use the new fields. Because if you add new fields to your HTTP post, you then have to map them in your Zapier configuration. So that's one call out that wasn't on my list here as far as things you need to remember to do. So let's do Craig, and we'll do Craig at Crankins.com. Unclaimed, he is in Nevada, and contact edit page will be www.editmycontact.com. So we'll do, pardon?
Very creative.
Thank you, yeah. Test, and here, test trigger. We need a new one, load more. Request D, there we go. So we've got the new fields. You want to answer it live and we can see where things go? Yeah.
It's about my social security number.
Yeah. Okay, so I've updated the trigger, got new information, which should mean that I have new data available here to map through. So link is going to be editmycontact.com, and state is going to be Nevada, and then we will do continue, and it turns the Zap off whenever you make those changes. So retest, double check those came through to the right columns there, and then do turn the Zap back on, and then I can delete this duplicate here. Delete, and I know that those are all unchanged, and then republish and retest, publish, bingo, bango, test, web form submitted, first name, last name, state. Okay, this one is going to be Ted at lasso.com, state, Kent, somewhere in the UK. Submit. Shout out to Charlotte, who I believe is in Kent, our belly dancing OG member. Thanks, Ted. Okay, so that one has run. In here, these numbers should click up to 3.
Dang it.
Yeah, what is going on?
While you're logging in, can I just say that if anyone knows anything about me, I'm obsessed with Trello. So imagine the possibilities of new leads coming in. It creates a card. If you claim it, you slide it over to the next list so you know it's in progress, and slide it when it's done. Managerial tracking. I am just excited right now, and so is Moisha because he gets me.
Okay. Yeah, guys, I get that this spreadsheet, in this limited use case, is a little superficial because you could just manage it off of that saved search that I created. But once you've got it out of the spreadsheet, that opens up in all sorts of integration possibilities, right? Maybe those leads aren't added into Infusionsoft until like somebody marks them as claimed, right? Like maybe like there's an initial vetting process that needs to take place. So they come in through some other channel, end up on this spreadsheet, somebody, moderates it. And then there's, a process here that only adds them to Infusionsoft if and when. What I wanted to showcase with this Ted Lasso example was this link that came through, right? So this is what that contact edit page does for us. So now we've got our list of unclaimed leads. And if I know that, he's in my area, right? All I need to do is click on that link, which should open the contact record automatically, preloads them. And then I can just pop to my claim the lead form, fill it out, select myself, click save, and then that will remove their tag. So if I would imagine if I go back to this search, it'll happen quickly enough that Ted is, this search, that Ted is already removed, and he is. And that HTTP post should be running. The second one should be running and updating Ted's status here to claimed. Yeah, I know. Ted Lasso. Let's check his campaign history. Okay, 151. That is now claimed. Look at that. Look at that, friends. I'm not great with like spreadsheets in general, but I imagine you could do like conditional formatting so that if it's unclaimed, it's green, and if it's claimed, it's red or something like that. I just think there's a lot to that. Okay, that's kind of it.
That's what I was going to say, Marcia. You totally stole it.
What was his comment?
He was like, you could also add like Slack notifications or SMS
totally
notifications.
Yeah.
Like, new lead is in. Who wants it?
Yeah. So one idea I had for the add to queue process was like I haven't really thought this through, but there's no currently. It requires the user to be monitoring that spreadsheet. So you could add a notification to a Slack channel, or you could set up, a Gmail group account, right? Some Gmail address that when you send an email to it, it goes to like a team, right? It forwards to everyone within that team. I'm just gonna start building an idea and like let you guys fill it in for me. Zapier has a tool here, Formatter, that allows you to do some miscellaneous math. So, for example, let's do numbers, and we'll do spreadsheet style formula. So what I'm thinking of here is a tool that I've used for like hacking split testing, where you do, rand between, and then you put like 1 and 5, right? So ran between 1 and 5, I think, I don't actually know if I need the equals sign there, but I believe that will generate a random number between 1 and 5. Test and review. Okay, didn't work at all. Let's try with the equals in it here. Okay, I'm in over my head. I need an adult. I might have the formula wrong, but the thought process was if we can randomly pick between 1 and 5, then we could use that to, Zapier has another tool called choose from list. Choose or pick from list. It's in the Formatter tool itself. Text, utilities, here we go, this one. So we could choose, my point is we could choose a number 1 through 5 and then use that to pick one of our reps who are in a list in Zapier, pick from list, and then operation, choose custom. So we would choose the output, right, from the third step that I messed up, and then pick the values here. So this would be like Jade at monkeypodmarketing.com as rep number 1, and then Greg at monkeypodmarketing.com as rep number 2. and Moisha at monkeypodmarketing.com as rep number 3. So my point here is that you could like add them to the spreadsheet and then like use some sort of randomizer to choose who gets the notification, right? So that each person can monitor the spreadsheet on their own, but you're also giving like someone a nudge. And it doesn't have to be random. It could be based on region. Like you could say, if it's, California, then, send the notification to Jade. If it's New York, send the notification to Moisha. If it's Nevada, send the notification to Greg, right? So I guess I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but this process was designed, well, I recognize that it's a jumping off point. And so my hope is that like we've planted a seed for you that you can then like, take in whatever direction or personalize for yourself or for your clients there.
Right. And also, Nikki made a really good point. If you're going to use this as like a funnel, as like a filter before the leads get into your app, the Fix Your Funnel Dupe Checker is a great way, because a lot of like real estate, she pointed out, I also know of like insurance agents, people fill out forms and use different email addresses, and it's like super annoying. So this would be a great way to filter things in Google Sheets before it turns into like round robining in your app.
That's a good idea. And Fix Your Funnel's dupe checker uses more than just email, right? It also dupe checks based off of phone number. That's a great point. I love that. I think, so I was wrong. I said I thought maybe this could work with the free version of Zapier, but it looks like webhooks is a premium tool. But I think the basic version of Zapier is like $20. So depending on your lead flow, like it may be relatively inexpensive to set this up. Okay, we're right at the hour mark. I feel pretty good about this as like a baseline, but the real like potential lies in like what happens next for you guys. So I would love to know, Moisha fixed my butchered code there. Yeah. I would love to know, like, if you implement this and like it works, or you have an adaptation of it, like just let us know. I want no credit for it. I just want to like see it in action. And like, I feel really good watching the directions and the shape that it goes on to take. And that's part of, I think that's part of what makes, I was going to say the OG community, but like makes the Infusionsoft community at large so valuable is just like the collective brain power that exists here.
Spirit.
The what now? Collaborative spirit. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Small business owners are my coworkers. That's the way I think about it. Although I used to say that before I actually had a coworker. Shout out to my assistant regional manager. Okay, I'm reviewing the comments, but I trust that you've got got us covered there. Do you want to let's do the T-shirt giveaway for the contest? What's that?
I'm gonna spin.
Oh, you got to share your screen.
Oh, okay. I'll do it again. Don't look at the results right now.
Whoever that person, just refresh the page before they see that they got selected and didn't know about it. You can give them the shirt. Let's give away 2. We'll give away 2.
Okay.
So go ahead and share your screen. Who won? Nikki. Congrats. Congrats.
All right. Now I'm going to
remove her. And then
I thought it was just for my pleasure. I didn't know it was going
to. I know, but it is that, but also this. And then go ahead and respin for these guys. And thank you, Moisha, Nikki, Michael, Jamie, and Jason. Thank you all for sharing this webinar and for hanging out live today. Touched out. Jason just got touched out by Moisha for a T-shirt. Congrats. Which is probably for the best, seeing as how Moisha is melting away, and we need to give him a T-shirt that reflects his 100-pound weight loss journey. Yes, Jason. Sorry, buddy. I saw it creep right past you there, but congrats to Nikki and Moisha. Get Jade. You might actually have their sizes, but get her your preferred size and shipping address, and we will get that in the mail for you. Yeah, I will stick around here for a few minutes if there's any extra questions or suggestions. But I really, thanks for joining. I would love to know if this was useful, if it was valuable. It was definitely less polished than I like my presentations to be. But that's kind of the fun of it, was like, discovering things on the fly and, tripping over issues and mistakes. And if it is useful and this is a format that you guys feel like is valuable for you, then we can make an effort to live stream more campaigns as we build them just in our normal processes.
I like that. The breakdowns too. I'm totally on board with Nikki here.
Yelena said, thank you so much. Our pleasure. Nikki said, very helpful. Yeah, down and dirty. That's right. I think sometimes when it's like overly polished, you like, there's like the disconnect is too far. You feel like, and I'm not talking about Infusionsoft specifically for me, but when I watch like another presentation and like Google ads or whatever, I'm like, that's a level I don't feel is realistic for me. But if you see like some of the mess, it makes you feel more comfortable when things don't go perfectly for yourself. So hopefully that's what we saw and not like a whole bunch of, sidestepping mistakes. But yeah, exactly. Problem solving on the spot, pivoting, adapting to like, I didn't think about, retesting the form with the new field and needing to update the Zap in between. Or I didn't think about, the fact that my test record wasn't going to be in Infusionsoft because it wasn't a real contact. Yeah. Cool.
An anonymous attendee asked, Salesforce versus Infusionsoft. What's your opinion? That's a deep one. Whew.
Yeah. First of all, how do we have an anonymous attendee? I've never understood in like a webinar that people register for. I've seen that a handful of times where their information doesn't come through. And that's fine. Like, I'm happy that you are here.
A question anonymously, even though we can see.
Oh, that could be, you can ask your question as anonymous. Yeah. Salesforce versus Infusionsoft. What's your opinion? I don't have much of an opinion because I don't really have a relationship with Salesforce. My understanding is that Salesforce serves larger businesses with more complex team needs, like multiple record types that need like a more robust measurement or connection, heavier business to business usage. But I also believe like Salesforce can work for massively complex, like enterprise level businesses, where Infusionsoft is more for small teams, 1 to 10 to 25 employees. Now, I have seen Infusionsoft companies grow with Infusionsoft past those limitations, but usually they start with a 5-person or a 10-person team, and then they grow. I also believe, I think Salesforce is probably a superior CRM, but that it doesn't have the like robust and intricate automations that Infusionsoft makes user friendly. And so Salesforce uses like Pardot in many cases as like its email sending or email automation engine, whereas in Salesforce, like or in Infusionsoft, they're pretty much hand in hand. Looks like it was Sebastian. Yeah, all good, man. I wish I had more experience with Salesforce to give you like a true side-by-side, but this is really just information that I've like anecdotally collected from customers that I serve who have either left Infusionsoft for Salesforce and then come back, or just started on Salesforce and come back, or people who worked in a company using Salesforce and then later worked in a different company using Infusionsoft. And so they've got like the experience on both sides.
Yeah, that is awesome right now.
Yeah, super helpful. Kevin said we're all Infusionsoft fanboys, I think, which is true to a certain extent, but we also like, we know the blemishes of Infusionsoft. It's an imperfect solution, but I think especially from like a budgetary perspective, Infusionsoft is generally much more affordable. At least that's my understanding. I wish Josh Metcalf Parsons from Australia was on, because he's been dubbed the Salesforce guy at ALU. And so he has been like on a 6-month journey digging deep into Salesforce and has some very specific opinions about the two. Nikki spent some years in Salesforce. It's lacking additional apps. Yeah, I don't know about Salesforce in terms of their like integrations and marketplace. I feel like Infusionsoft is pretty good. But again, like because I do Infusionsoft training and education, I intentionally haven't spent as much time in some of the other platforms. I help people once they are Infusionsoft users, and I don't really have, I'm probably not the most experienced person to like weigh the pros and cons against the other platforms. But, you know, Jade, I'm sure you've got a little more experience there. I know, you know, Kevin and some of the other people who act as like consultants have worked in both. Yeah. Salesforce needs a lot of custom dev. I have heard that like doing simple things in Salesforce can require like a SQL query, which is that to me, that sentence is like, well, never mind, you know?
Right. I don't remember who said it, but someone said that Infusionsoft just plays nicely with API in general a lot. You can do other things and juggle other tools.
Yeah. Like, I think the word, some people like hear API and it's like your eyes immediately glaze over and it's like, oh, well, that's technical and complex. But what they forget is that like you don't have to learn the API. All you have to do is acknowledge that it's there and then find an API developer to build an integration. Like that's incredibly, meaningful in terms of what it makes possible. And because there is an open API, it creates that ecosystem of plugins and tools like Plus This and Parse and Access Ally and all the other things that are able to tie into it. And a lot of times those would be custom development projects. But because of that open API, somebody has productized that solution. And all we have to do is like pay for the $27 or $97 a month to like access it rather than build it independently. Mm-hmm. So Sebastian, I don't know if that answers your question, but I really do respect that you're looking for context there. I would, I'm going to recommend with an asterisk, maybe try asking in those open Facebook groups, or maybe you already have, but try asking there because there are thousands of people, and so you'll get more perspectives. The reason for the asterisk is because you will undoubtedly also get people who want to like sell you services or who want to sign you up for one and have an agenda of some sort, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It's just like, you should be aware that when you like make a post like that, it's oftentimes, it's people are going to see that as you raising your hand saying, I have money I want to spend on something. Right.
And it's funny because you're like, on the plus side, you're going to get a lot of answers. On the downside, you're going to get a lot of answers.
Yeah. Well, and some of those answers will have an agenda. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Okay. Jade, I think that's it.
Yeah. That was fun.
That's it. This was awesome.
Good chat. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining live. Thanks for your questions and engagement. That really adds a lot for us. Jade, thank you as always for adding your razzle dazzle. I appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. And this is recorded and we're, Nick was asking if we're going to put this in the OG.
Yeah, I will get this. I will include the recording for our OG members in the webinar archive there, but I will also find a way to get the recording to people who are not OGs. I promised there would be no pitch. So that's all I'll say about that. Of course, if you're interested in the OG membership, just ask. But that's it. Yeah. All right. Bye, friends. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye, y'all.